In the early hours of Sunday, some illegal miners in Obuasi went on rampage following the killing of their colleagues in a clash with the military. The illegal miners had besieged one of the abandoned concessions of Anglo Gold Ashanti when they were confronted by military personnel on guard. Baba, who narrowly escaped the open fire, recounts events leading to the shooting incident.
Any 300 plus. Nti soldier phone buy and then pack him castle. And a soldier commander no call the chino G phone or receive call be.
Those of us there were more than 300. When the soldiers came, they came to park their vehicles, and the commander stepped back to receive a call. During that time, our leaders were on their knees, pleading with them. After the call, he cocked his gun and opened fire on us. They shot for almost 30 minutes.
Almost 30 minutes. Almost 30 minutes. Meanwhile, soldier, Obi Jania, see and shooting a cheek. What I say? At
least 8 of the miners have been confirmed dead, while several others sustained varied degrees of injury to their arms, chest, legs, and other body parts. What wrong have you done, AGA? We are living in our own town, but you are denying us food, and now you are killing us. Everyone finds livelihood from the communities they live in. So must we. We did not go to where the company is working. We went to an abandoned site.
Young company, baby, more than 7-8 good years. When you
The Ghana Armed Forces, in a statement, indicated they returned fire in self-defense when the illegal miners fired at their troops on duty. The irate miners, in retaliation, hit the principal streets of the town and set ablaze 4 vehicles of subcontractors of the mine, of which one crashed into a nearby shop and torched properties. We couldn't salvage anything. It's only yesterday that my sister restocked the shop. Over 30,000 cedis worth of items have been destroyed.
So where I'm currently standing is the Obuasi traffic light in Obuasi. And what you see behind me is the debris of some of the vehicles that were bent in the morning when the illegal miners came to this particular enclave to render their displeasure for what has happened at the mine. And just across the road or down the road is where it leads to the mine, one of the mining concessions that we have, or the main Anglo Gold Ashanti Obuasi mine area. But for the residents who live in this particular community, they are saying that they want security tightened in the coming days because they do not know what would happen.
We do not know what has happened in Tutuka. A little movement in town, then everyone begins to run away. Hear the siren wailing. It's scary living here now. I woke up at dawn and all of a sudden I am confronted with this. You can't have a peace of mind here. Both private and public schools in Obuasi East and Obuasi municipalities have been temporarily closed down amidst the escalations. Students and teachers of these schools have been asked to stay home for 2 days until tempers are calmed. George Kumson is Director of Education at Obuasi Municipality.
We cannot guarantee the safety of both learners and teachers. So we discussed with the Regional Director of Education and we have agreed that for tomorrow and possibly Tuesday, let's look at the situation. If it's calm, then we go back to school.
How would this impact education in Obuasi?
The contract hours for tomorrow will be made. And if it is made, I mean, as you are aware, means that getting back the hours to recoup whatever should have been lent will be gone.
The mining company has also instituted a raft of measures to safeguard their workers, including asking them to avoid official uniforms and any other items that associate them to the company. Samuel Abuaje is a member of parliament for Obuasi East.
Military some of us will go into detail.
Some of us will go into detail the actions of the military. We will make sure the laws deal with anyone who gave the command for the military to open fire. Nobody is above the law. Meanwhile, President Mahama has directed AGA to absorb the medical costs of injured persons as it sets out to investigate circumstances leading to the tragic incident. For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweko.
Welcome back. So we get into our big stories. There's uneasy calm in Obuasi, and we'll be giving you the details of that as we're joined by Emmanuel Bright Kweku. Emmanuel, good morning. What more can you report to us on that incident in Obuasi?
Good morning, Benjamin. And so for this morning, Obuasi, I would say, is a little bit calmer compared to yesterday when the incident started. And today, you would have the people going about their normal duties, with the exception of the students going to their schools, as was reported. And so in Obuasi, generally, the situation is a bit calmer as compared to yesterday. But from what we have gathered so far from the illegal miners themselves, we are told that usually when there is a new government, they kind of write to the government to have access to the abandoned concessions of Anglo Gold Ashanti Obuasi mine. And so from the letters I had from some of the leadership of the Obuasi Youth Association, Small Community Mining Association, a letter dated somewhere around 5th January, they had written it to the NDC, the National Democratic Congress, so they could give them access to the abandoned concession. But from what I gathered from one of them, he tells me that this group of persons that besieged or broke the security fence at the abandoned concession, they had not been given authority to go in there. And so they were waiting for them to hear something from the government before they could go into the concession, because they tell me that over the years, sometimes they are given access to some abandoned concessions for them to gather some deposits of the gold and then also send for their families and themselves, make a source of livelihood from it. And so for this particular group of people, they tell me that they were not authorized to go into the concession. And so, Benjamin, that is so far what we have gathered with regards to why they besieged this particular concession.
Emmanuel, clarify for me. So you're saying that there was a group that was of NDC stock and that they had sought permission, saying that when there's a change in government, they are allowed some space in some of these abandoned mines. Is that correct?
So this is a letter from the Obuasi Youth Community Mining Association. It was a letter dated 6th January. They said they had written it to the government, the NDC. From the letter that I have now, they have written it to Dr. Tony Obing, a leading member of the NDC Mining Committee, and they were seeking for them to grant them access to the abandoned concession at the Anglo Gold Ashanti Obuasi mine. And so when you read excerpts of the letter, they were saying that they did so because they had campaigned so much for the NDC, because you know that the NDC, when they come into power, they give a listening ear to these small-scale miners to have access to the abandoned concession. And so they had written to them for them to grant them the authority to go into the abandoned concession.
But again, you say that those who went there on the day were not these people.
So for those, I understand, from what I understand, it's a fraction, because it's a community mining association. It's a fraction. It's a group under this association that went there on their own to enter into the abandoned concession. And so they are part of the association, but not entirely. No, it's a full-based association, but we have some groups that are under it. Some illegal miners with their own leadership, another group with their own leadership. So a fraction of that group entered into, attempted to enter the concession. Benjamin.
I have heard of different accounts when it comes to the death toll. What is the specific death toll you know? And for those who may be receiving treatment, what can you report?
Okay, so from what I have gathered, at least some 8 persons have been confirmed dead. At least some 8 persons have been confirmed dead. Because when we spoke with the authorities in Obuasi, they told us that some 9 others had injuries. So the 8 of them were transferred to Komfo Teaching Hospital due to the severity of their injuries. And so for now, this morning, I have not confirmed if any of these people have also passed on or not. But 8 of them were transferred yesterday from Obuasi to the Komfo Teaching Hospital, while one was in Obuasi Government Hospital seeking treatment. So for those who were injured, that's what we've gathered so far. But for the death toll, we understand that at least some 8 persons have been confirmed there.
Emmanuel, this is Sweetie. I mean, the intent behind going there is clear, the action clear. But where I find a bit unclear is the circumstances that led to the exchange of fire. Can you recount? Because when you speak in your report, one of the men you spoke to was saying that the soldiers shot them while they were running away. Well, it's as if when they were fleeing the site and the soldiers were still firing upon them. Can you recount, as briefly as you can, the circumstances really that led to the exchange of fire? What really happened?
All right, so from what the illegal miners themselves who were there at the time, they tell me that around somewhere 7 p.m. yesterday, they gathered around the concession to enter. And so around 10 p.m., they tried to enter the place. And when they entered, they were encountered by the military, and they were asked why they were coming there, and then they explained to them that they were coming into the abandoned concession to mine. And so during that time, according to the eyewitnesses themselves, they tell me that their leadership, those who were leading them, were on their knees with their hands wide in the air, raised up in the air. And they told them that they only came to the abandoned site to mine and get something for themselves and their families. And that's why they came. But they explained that during that time when they were telling them what really the issue why they came there. The commander for the military received a call. They don't know who the person was. They received a call, and all of a sudden, when the commander was done with the call, he opened fire on them.
While they were on their knees?
That's what they told me. That while their leadership, those who led them to go into the concession, while they were on their knees, with their hands open, that's when they opened fire. But from the military, they said that they were fired at it. Their troop was fired at, and in self-defense, they also had to retaliate in that respect.
Can I just come through with this follow-up? The military, per its statement from the Ghana Armed Forces, says they were wielding locally manufactured rifles, pump-action guns, axes, clippers, the industrial type to cut wire and all of that. Is that the case?
So when I spoke with the illegal miners themselves, they also told me that they just went there with their usual working gears. You talk of the axe, you talk of the your saw, what they would need for them to mine the gold. That's what they went in there. And you and I know clearly that sometimes, even in some of the illegal mining sites, some of these miners have sort of ammunition to protect themselves and all of that. But from when I asked them, they told me that they only went there with their chisel, their hammer, their normal hole for them to dig and then gather some sand or the gold deposit and then
all right.
So for them, they were saying that they just went there with the asshole, the usual things they went with.
Emmanuel, hold for me. We're joined by Adib Sani. Adib Sani is a security analyst. Thank you for joining the conversation. But first, let me quickly go to Felix Kwachiofosu. He speaks for this current administration. Mr. Kwachiofo, a very good morning to you.
Oh, good morning.
Thank you for joining the conversation. What happened in Obuasi? What's the memo you have got?
Well, the briefing I have from the security chief is that at about 11 p.m. 2 days ago, some individuals who are described as illegal miners sought to gain access to one of the mining sites belonging to Anglo Ashanti. This effort was repelled by security personnel of the company who, feeling threatened, called in reinforcements. Somehow, a melee ensued, and at the end of it, it was determined that about 8 or so persons had been gunned down with quite a number of people injured.
I see.
The priority for government through its security chiefs was to immediately restore calm because the incident had generated considerable tensions in the area. And so it was absolutely important to restore calm, restore law and order, and ensure that steps are taken to maintain the peace, pending any resolution of the matter through concrete investigations. As you would notice, yesterday, sometime in the evening, I had cause to issue a statement on behalf of government, in which government expressed its deep regrets over what we consider to be the needless loss of life and the manner in which it occurred. But as we speak, the only way we can get to the bottom of the matter is to conduct credible investigations. So President Mahama immediately ordered investigations to be carried out into the whole incident. He wants to know exactly what happened, who did what, and if indeed any unlawful acts have been committed and who has committed it, so that the law takes its course. So in a nutshell, this is what, from the perspective of government, happened based on the briefings that we have.
On the back of that investigation, what can you report as of this morning?
Well, the primary concern of government is to ensure that calm has returned to Obuasi. As I indicated, the incident naturally generated some tension between sections of the community and Anglo Ashanti. So it was imperative that those tensions were doused and contained so that they do not spill over into more acts of lawlessness which could lead to further death and destruction to property. So as we speak, the briefing I have is that normalcy has returned to Obuasi, even if there is some, if you like, discontent among sections of the citizens. Following on that, the president has instructed that everything should be done to ensure that those tensions are not stoked any further,
right,
pending the outcome of the investigations that will be conducted. But as to the details of the investigation and this outcome, we are yet to receive a report, so it will be premature on my part to report to disclose any findings so far.
Felix, Sweetie and I, my colleague, have quite a number of questions for you, so I'll try to make it very brief. I'll box 2 questions together and then Sweetie will come in. One, there's a purported letter that was written by a section of the miners to Tony Orbin, and there are also claims about the fact that they wanted to get into this disused mine, and the claim is that it's been disused for some 7 or 8 years. Can you authenticate that? Has there been any such communication to the party, to Tony Orbin, or any high-ranking member in the party? And how are you hoping to deal with this situation when it comes to what we would call foot soldiers, or people who feel they did some work for your party to come to power, and now, as your party is in power, they have to get something out of it? What's your response?
First of all, I'm not aware of any such letter or communication to any member within the structure of the NDC. The second point also is that we have to be cautious in the way that we ascribe identities to the individuals who are alleged to have engaged in this action. As far as I know, no foot soldier has been put up to any such conduct. In any event, the political coloration of the individuals will not matter. If anybody does anything that is unlawful or breaches the peace, the laws of Ghana are to apply in the same way without discrimination. So the attempt by some to paint this with a political brush, in my view, is unfortunate. It is not the first time that we've had incidents where members of the community who are alleged to be illegal miners have attempted to enter a mine force. In 2020, similar incidents were recorded in certain parts of the country. So it is a problem that must be dealt with. Now, if it is going to be dealt with, it is necessary that we do not go on the tangent of pointing fingers when the facts have not been laid bare. We all know.
And Felix, you realize I'm only...
If you let me land. If we all know that illegal mining has become a major national difficulty, and this government has just taken over, we have a raft of measures that we promised in our manifesto to tackle the problem with. But before those measures are rolled out, it is important that this particular incident is isolated, looked into thoroughly to determine all the facts. I am not in a position, as I speak to you, to determine the political identity of those who did it. But as I have said earlier, their identity in terms of political affiliation does not matter in this instance. What matters is that lives have been lost. And it is the primary responsibility of every government to guarantee the safety and security of its citizens. So when we wake up to a story that 8 people have been gunned down in circumstances that are unclear, the first point of call is to unravel what happened. Now, whether they are CPP, MPP, NDC, is completely immaterial. They are Ghanaians who have died. Everybody who dies deserves to have their death looked into so that we know that there was no foul play, there was no wrongdoing, or that they have not been killed unlawfully. That is what the investigation is focused on at this point. All other matters relating to illegal mining or unlawful activity within communities are within the purview of government to deal with, and we will deal with it as and when it is necessary.
You had a follow-up, or should we go to other matters, Ben?
I think
please, you can go on. If you have it.
Right. In a related matter, Mr. Kwachofos, there's another incident in OT region where at least 5 people have been confirmed dead. They've set houses and other things ablaze in Akiode, Chala, and Adele in the Nkwanta South municipality of the OT region. Has this also come to your attention?
That is a matter that came to attention on early Saturday morning, and I had been in regular touch with the National Security Apparatus. The vision I have on that is that that conflict is believed to be the result of a chieftaincy dispute that has obtained there for quite some time. And that some elements belonging to some factions were involved in this clash. So immediately it came to the attention of government that these incidents were happening. There was security deployment. A combined team of police and military personnel were sent there to enforce law and order and make sure that no further loss of lives or destruction of property were recorded. It was determined later in the day, that is Saturday, that there had to be a beefing up of the security presence, and that was done. Since then, the reports I have show that some normalcy has returned to the place, even as efforts are made to get to the bottom of what occasioned this, and if possible, initiate moves to resolve whatever it is that is resulting in this particular clash. So yes, that is a matter that government has dealt with as I speak to you.
Just a quick one, though, taking you back to the Obuasi incident. There are quite a number of these closed or disused mines dotted across the country, and you would have followed that issue in South Africa, which has become pretty controversial. Is there a plan for such mines? Because this one has been disused for 7-8 years, and some people felt, there's no active mining going on, so we can also go there, which has led to these deaths. One, what would be the policy plan? Engaging these big outfits when it comes to disused mines, and engaging the communities as well. And two, since especially as there's been loss of life, the investigations, are there any timelines? Is the president directing that within this period we must get to know what exactly happened and actions taken from there?
Well, the first question that concerns the rate at which individuals seek to take over disused mines. You see, mining has to be done according to the laws of Ghana. I do not think that you can get up tomorrow and decide that behind your house is a disused mine, so you are going to go there and extract whatever minerals you think is there. That cannot be allowed. So there has to be a framework within which the original operators of the mine, if they are minded to do so, in concert with other stakeholders, hand it over to other persons who may be interested, insofar as it does not pose any harm whatsoever to the environment, and that the subsequent mining activity is done within the remit of the law. The NDC manifesto is clear on what our proposals are and the policy will be regarding mining, whether large scale, medium scale, or small scale. We have only been in power for barely 2 weeks, and we will do what is necessary to ensure that the mining sector is streamlined and that the worrisome issue of illegal mining is dealt with comprehensively. So that will happen. We do not encourage anybody to get up one day and decide that they have appropriated some land and that they are going to engage in mining of any form when they have not gone through due process, they have not gone through due procedure, and they are not doing so according to the dictates of law. Now, on the second issue, which I will require you to remind me because it was a long-winded question. If you don't mind, please repeat the question.
So I was talking about when likely the investigations, whether the president is directing
I think that
it should be concluded.
Because of the loss of life, it is important that the security agencies have adequate time, which in their view will facilitate the investigation. So
how long will be adequate?
But we do not anticipate. Hello?
How long will be adequate?
Yeah, I'm sure that the security agencies know exactly how much time they need. For me, it will not be proper at this stage to breathe down their neck and give timelines when all the facts are not available. I do not anticipate that it will take too long. We do not expect them to drag this investigation beyond reasonable limits. We expect that it will be done within reasonable time, and that once the report is received, we will take action. Because you see, these killings have become one too many. Every now and then, we hear of killings of individuals by security personnel. Unfortunately, there are some in our society who tend to believe that the moment somebody is accused of some offense, depending on their estimation or judgment of the gravity of the offense, instant retribution must be exacted. Summary executions must be used to punish people who are deemed to have committed some offense. I don't think that Ghanaian law allows that. Everybody who commits a crime is expected to be taken through a process to determine their guilt or otherwise. So this is not a government that encourages that kind of action against persons alleged to have committed crimes. So the spate of shootings that have happened in recent times, where military personnel or police personnel will move into communities and exact vengeance, shoot people in unexplained circumstances, are not things that this government encourages. So we want to use this as a test case to find out what exactly happened. If it emerges that there are gaps in the way that we enforce the laws, which tends to imperil citizens and leads to needless loss of life, we need to fill those gaps. We need to have operational procedures that guide the way that security operatives carry out their work, so that at the slightest instance, they do not use force which results in the loss of life. We are interested in preserving Ghanaian lives and streamlining our processes and having a structure, a framework within which unlawful conduct is dealt with. So, to the extent that all these must happen, I believe that the security agencies need sufficient time to do their work, but it will not be unreasonably long, as has been the case in the past.
Right. Mr. Felix Kwachioff, there's another incident at Ntotroso in the Ahafo region, and the Ghana Police Service says they've restored calm over there. It's also the same issue about people attempting to breach security at Newmont mining site, and some persons allegedly stole some gold that was Wednesday. Now, 3 people have been confirmed dead. I think the concern really is how easily civilians have access to guns and other kind of weapons that we are seeing, which emboldens them to engage military personnel and all that. First, your quick reflections on this, and then other plans in the works to mitigate the influx of guns and weapons into the country. What is government's approach to that?
Again, it is most unfortunate that yet more lives have been lost, needlessly, if I would say, and in an avoidable manner. Every life that is lost is regrettable. And therefore, it is not pleasant news to hear that 3 people have died because of some confrontations with security personnel. But the point that I keep on emphasizing, that these deaths and the manner in which they occur must be looked into. You see, the era where shootings happen, people die, and then security agencies tell their side of the story that, oh, they breached one law or the other, or they were engaging in acts that endangered our security, so we fired upon them. And it is left at that. Should not continue. It is not sufficient just to listen to the side of the security agency. We must look into the whole incident to determine what exactly happened, whether or not the right amount of force was applied and that the killings could have been avoided. You see, in addition to holding those responsible for any unlawful acts accountable, we will also establish protocols to deal with subsequent breaches of the peace. The point is that there's a reason why law and order enforcement exists, because we anticipate that there are those in society who are deviant, and every now and then they want to take the law into their hands and do things that are prejudicial to the safety and security of others, or the country, or the community in which they live. So, law enforcement must also be equipped to deal with this in a manner that is just, that is fair, and that is proportionate. That is what we seek.
Right.
So, the incident that you brought my attention to, I do not know the full details, but I will seek explanation from responsible authorities. And if there is a need to engage with that, I will do so. But in general, we do not believe that it is proper to wake up every day to find that these sort of incidents are happening and citizens are losing their lives. What it means is that there must be some push factors that compel people to do these sort of things, that elicit the responses that are coming. And whatever it is must be addressed in a manner that ensures that they do not recur.
Mr. Fosu, this is not the first time we are hearing that civilians have access to guns and weapons and are engaging security personnel in violent clashes. I'm asking, what is the most up-to-date information you have in terms of what government is doing to mitigate that? Because we are seeing a lot of guns in the country, a lot of, it's so easily accessible.
The issue of proliferation of small arms and guns is a long-standing one. It's a decades-old problem. That's why there is even the Small Arms Commission, which over the years have attempted to address the problem. But this is a government that is barely 2 weeks old. So it will take some time to get a handle on all the facts surrounding this matter. But I can assure you that once we learn about the full facts, and we know exactly what the situation is, we would implement policies to ensure that our country is safer for everybody and that people do not get access to these guns as easily as they are doing now and are not able to use it to threaten the safety and security of others and the communities that they live in.
Thank you so much. Felix Kwashi Fosu speaks for President John Dramani Mahama. Ben.
Well, Felix joining us for a conversation there. And it's interesting because this incident at Ntotroso was just a day after the presidential inauguration on the 8th of January. But let's also bring in Adib Sani, who joins the conversation. Adib, what do you make of these developments, not just Obuasi and Ntotroso, as well? What do you make of these developments, and what does it say about the situation when it comes to illegal mining, security-wise?
Well, thank you so much. A very good morning to you, Benjamin, and Sweetie. It's obviously an indication of the fact that our efforts towards countering the threats posed by illegal mining has been ad hoc, it's been unsustainable, and it's been temporal. So quite obviously, there was no commitment whatsoever into dealing with the scourge. Hence, some of these illegal miners have become more like militia. They are armed. I've been to a number of mining sites, especially in the eastern region, and I asked them why they have their guns. And they tell me that sometimes when they mine the minerals on their way to town, they are confronted or accosted by armed robbers who rob them, hence the need for them to have these weapons. As a result, some of them have, stockpiled a lot of these weapons that they use to intimidate and in some cases perpetrate other crimes. I think that for Mr. Abdul Razak Osman, who is the new National Security Coordinator, one of his topmost priorities, beyond Boku and the over 300 chieftaincy and land disputes we have in the country should be the extractive industry. Even though we are getting a lot of revenue, happenings within that industry has serious security ramifications. For example, foreigners coming in, some of them with very bad agenda, the possibility of terrorist groups making money through the extractive industry, the possibility of explosives meant for the mining industry diverted into the wrong hands and a whole lot. So we need to work as seriously towards addressing those security concerns. And for me, what has happened in Obuasi is not surprising. It is recurring, it has happened in the past, and I think largely if we had adequate intel on the ground, we should have been able to know that this is what is being planned. Because for any such thing to happen, it should have been planned, it should have been well thought through, there should have been meetings, people should have said something, there should have been bickering, there should have been simmering tension between the community and Anglo Gold Ashanti, which should, I think, would have been picked up by the intelligence community, analyzed, and then the necessary mechanisms put in place to stop this from happening. Unfortunately, it has happened. And we have a lot of lessons, Benji and Sweetie, to learn from what has happened. The issue of the law of proportionality. And it applies in civilian gun ownership. So if I own a handgun and an aggressor chases me with a whip and I shoot him, is it proportional? Of course, because the whip doesn't pose an immediate, life-threatening situation for me. But if the person chases me with a machete or with a knife and I gun him down, it is proportional. So it is up to the security agents to assess whether the threat posed by the illegal miners presents a lethal threat to them or not. And the issue of de-escalation. Benji,
Adib, let's be specific. And if you look at what the Ghana Armed Forces said, they said that to the extent that one of their officers was hit by some pellets, and they say these elements in Obuasi who had attacked this mining area had come with locally manufactured rifles, they had come with pump action guns, they had come with axes, clippers for wires and all of that. Is that commensurable if they initiated the fire and the military responded?
Well, at this stage of my life, I've learned not to pass judgment based on one-sided stories.
I'm not asking for judgment. I'm saying hypothetically, if it turned out that they were wielding all of these, and if that shot was indeed fired, and one military officer was affected, hit by the pellets, would it justify returning fire?
Surely, if the statement is anything to go by, it would justify in no uncertain terms what the military did. Because you don't have to wait for a soldier to go down before you respond, okay? But if there is an investigation into the matter, finding out is not going to be difficult. As a criminal researcher, I do know that when the investigators get to the crime scene, they would even be able to tell where the bullets came from. So if a bullet hits a tree or a wall, you'll be able to use certain instruments to know the trajectory, where the bullets came from. So we wish to know, did the fire come from one direction or it came from both directions? And where was it targeting? So we need to know all this, and it is only possible through an investigation. And the question, Benji, that we also need to ask ourselves is whether the military had the opportunity to de-escalate. De-escalation is extremely important. Recently, a friend of mine who occupies a public office told me how about 1,000 foot soldiers came to his office and asked him to move out. And the police came, they wanted to arrest. He said, hey, relax, let me deal with it. So he called their leaders in and he spoke to their conscience. We are all brothers. I came here based on the authority, on the posting by an authority. So I think we should do things in a better fashion. Guess what? They left with his number, and every morning they call to check on him, So there's that element of de-escalation that I think should always be applied. Otherwise, if they are belligerent, if they are aggressive, and their actions pose an immediate danger to the lives of the officers, it was within their right to respond. But I am distressed about the number of deaths. I think it's too many, and I don't know if it could have been avoided.
Habib Sani, thank you so much. That's all that time will allow us for. I hope we could have gotten more details from you. But thank you for joining us, Habib Sani. He's a security analyst. Now, we'll take the conversation further when we return from the break, because by the time the sun sets tomorrow, the invasion of our country will have come to a halt. Those are the words of U.S. President-elect Donald J. Trump to his roaring supporters yesterday as he's inching closer to his inauguration, which is set for 2 p.m. today. We'll take a look at the expectations and more when we return on the AM Show.